It's a Friday morning, and we are happy to bring on for our featured Friday half-hour segment here on KCMO, the president of Benedictine College, Steve Minnis, is joining us. Steve, good morning.
Great. Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate
it. You are a guy I've been trying to track down for a while, but you've been a very busy man since mid-May. So thank you for being here. And before we get into the nuts and bolts and, we go through the last couple of months, did you ever think the last 2 months would play out the way they did for you and for Benedictine College?
Of course, not in a million years. We invited Harrison Butker as our commencement speaker. He had been on our campus a couple of times, actually, and actually really inspired our students. He talked about faith, family, and football in that order. That's how he lives his life. And he says, actually, if he's not kicking well, then faith and family, there's something wrong there. And so it was really, really inspiring for our students. I met him a number of times and saw him speak at a couple other places as well. And so it was just a natural for us to invite him.
So you invite him, and, did you have to twist his arm at all, or was he pretty open to it? Did you have to make the schedule work? How did that booking process go?
No, I did talk to him early and invited him. He was not really all that interested in doing it. He had done Georgia Tech's commencement the year before.
His alma mater,
His alma mater. And he, told me he didn't want to be the commencement speaker, okay? But then I told him, I said, this is a special class because this was the class that were seniors in high school during COVID. And This is a class that did not have a high school graduation, did not have a prom, did not have spring sports. And so this is their first commencement, in their life. And I think that moved him, and he really wanted to come and celebrate with that class.
Oh, that's amazing. So you get him out there, of course. You get Harrison Butker out there. It's a big get for you guys, and he gives a speech. And right after the speech, you listen to the speech. I assume you're right there watching it.
Correct.
Do you think anything of it? Do people come up to you? Is there any issue in the immediate hours, moments after the commencement speech?
Well, I think it was probably a different speech than we were expecting, but our students gave him a standing ovation. In fact, the entire crowd gave him a standing ovation, broke up his speech at one point with cheers, clapping as well. So it was pretty well received at our place.
Okay, so it's well received, and then, you just kind of go on. People go to their parties, they're living their life, and then the days start to unfold following that commencement speech. And what are you thinking to yourself as the president of the college? What are you thinking to yourself as this thing becomes not just a regional, national story, but really becomes a global story?
Well, it's kind of interesting. People will say, "Hey, do you have any regrets? Are you sad that this happened?" And I always respond. I said, "Well, yeah. For the entire day, I had this really tall, good-looking guy with great hair standing right next to me the entire day." I said, "This is not a good look for me." Okay, right? Too many comparisons between Harrison and me, and so, what was interesting is what's come out of this, and what I tell our students now all the time when I've addressed them and I've addressed potential students and people on our campus is this. We had a young Catholic man, he's only 28 years old, addressing 22-year-olds. And what he did was provide an example of what it means to have courage, okay? A person that has these very strong beliefs. And he was willing to stand up in front of them, these young people, and say, "These are my strongly held beliefs." Knowing that because of what he's going to say, people are going to try to cancel him. They're going to intimidate him. They're going to try to get him fired, okay? He had to go out and hire a security guard for his mother. All of these things were going to happen to him, and he knew that there was going to be a firestorm because he was willing to stand up and talk about his really strongly held beliefs, and that takes courage. And I challenge our young people, do you have the courage to stand up for your beliefs as well?
It's a good way to put it. Now, you say there it was a different speech than maybe you thought. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think most people expect a commencement speech to be, hey, follow your dreams, go get them, I'm proud of you, and all that. There was some really deep thoughts in that speech.
So it was even more philosophical than maybe you thought it was going to be?
Probably, but I've done a lot of research on commencement speeches since that time. Okay, and I don't think that there's any right way or wrong way to give a commencement speech. George Marshall in 1946 gave the commencement address at Harvard, and he introduced the Marshall Plan. Okay, he did not, wax eloquent about how great this class was, and you're going to go change the world. He said, "No, Europe is dying, and this is the plan that's going to save Europe." Okay, so he introduces the Marshall Plan. Right at Westminster the next year, Winston Churchill, gives his Iron Curtain speech. It was not a feel good speech to the graduates. In fact, I always laugh. I always say because people have asked me, why didn't you ask to see the speech ahead of time? And I said, can you imagine the president of Westminster College, contacting, Winston Churchill saying, "Hey, Mr. Churchill, could you send your speech ahead of time so my communications team can look at it and see if we approve it or not?" So, that just doesn't happen.
That's a great point. I compare it to if I get hired to do this show, the first day the boss says, "Hey, what's your opening monologue? Can I see your transcript?" It's like, wait, do you trust me to do the job or not?
That's exactly right.
So, wow. Okay, so the days unfold after that fact. Are you in contact with Harrison to check in on him and see how he's feeling? What were those conversations like?
Yes, and I've seen him since. How are you doing? He's doing great. He truly believes in what he believes in, and I think he's very comfortable with that. And the folks that are around and giving him advice and things like that, they really believe in what they believe in, and I'm proud of that. We tell our students all the time, there's one of our Benedictine monks always says, "Are you willing to go bankrupt for your beliefs? Are you willing to go bankrupt for your beliefs? And if your beliefs are true, and the answer to that is yes, well, you'll never go bankrupt because your beliefs will carry on to success all the time." And so I really think that he lives by that mantra.
That is well said. President Steve Minnis is here on KCMO at Benedictine College. Obviously, in the wake of the Harrison Butker commencement speech 2 months ago, it's his first conversation here with local media in Kansas City. You wrote the op-ed, of course, in USA Today. That was a big deal. You also did a podcast, I know, with our friends over at Kansans for Life. But when you look back on that moment in time, and that speech in particular, the way it's been misconstrued as anti-female in the workplace, anti-woman, how do you respond to people who make those claims?
Well, I'm really disappointed because what the headlines would say and what I'll call the secular media had put out was not even what he said. Okay, in fact, headlines said that Butker says a woman's place is in the kitchen. He didn't even come close to that. What he said was this, and we try to tell our young people this all the time, male and female. You need to lean into your vocation. What does God have in store for you? Okay, and if that's success in the workplace, that's fantastic. Okay, we had young people, young women and men getting great degrees, and they're going to go on to very successful. But don't shy away from your other vocation of being a spouse and a parent. And so on both sides, okay? And all the time I tell people, one of these days I'm going to leave the presidency of Benedictine College and I'm going to be replaced probably by somebody a lot better than me, okay? But I'm never going to be replaced as the father to Matt and Michael and Molly. And that's something that they can never replace. I'll never be replaced for that. So, and that's basically what he was telling them. And you know what? Our students believe that too.
Yeah. I spent the last few days interviewing some of the great 90-plus-year-olds here in Kansas City for a magazine project. And you ask any of these folks who have had incredible careers, what's the most important thing to them? What do they cherish the most? It's always their spouse if they're still alive. It's their children. It's not the tremendous professional success. And that, to me, was part of Harrison's message as much as anything else. Football is behind his faith and his family.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so I'm disappointed it was so misconstrued. But I think that the secular media was looking for something, to attack him on because of some of the other things that he said about our president. And I think that was in response to that.
Do you have any idea where that secular media attack really began, where it started getting ginned up? Because you guys are not Harvard in the sense where everyone knows that Harrison Butker's there. They're maybe watching it. They're streaming it. It had to come from, I imagine, somebody locally?
Well, I can't really tell. I have my theories, and one theory is that the very first things that came out were clips from the speech in which he said something to the effect that we have a Catholic president, self-proclaimed Catholic president, who makes the sign of the cross at a pro-abortion rally. That was one of the first things that came out publicly, and I think that the media wanted to try to get that off the minds of people, so they went after other parts of the speech.
Wow. Well, we are thrilled to be in studio here with President Steve Minnis of Benedictine College. We're going to break, come back with him as we continue this conversation on 95.7 FM KCMO and streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. President Steve Minnis, Benedictine College, is here on KCMO Talk Radio for his first Kansas City area interview in the wake of, obviously, the Harrison Butker, I put up my air quotes as I wear my Butker jersey, controversy, which first thing you said to me was nice jersey, by the way,
yes,
Steve.
Right.
So how has this impacted Benedictine College over the last 2 months?
Well, that's a great question. You know, during this, you're inundated with a lot of negativity, and I would ask experts in the industry, okay, how's this going to impact Benedictine College? And they would always tell me, if they're spelling your name correctly, then everything's going to work out well for you, okay? But it has allowed us, and we had a USA Today op-ed, and allows us to tell the story of Benedictine College, which is bigger than just the Harrison Butker commencement, okay? It tells the story about this vision that we have, which is unlike any other vision for any other university or organization in the country, and that's to transform the culture. We believe that the culture is broken in this country. This culture brings about loneliness and hopelessness and faithlessness and truthlessness, and we believe it's our duty as a place of higher education to form our young people in our mission of community, faith, and scholarship so they can go out in the world and transform the culture. Part of that, there's a whole host of ideas because of that. One is we have a Center for Family Life. We think, as the family goes, so goes the country. We also have a Center for Constitutional Liberty, which we think is really important. Schools across the country, places of higher education, are teaching anti-American history. Okay, we at the groundbreaking of our new library, which looks like Independence Hall in Philadelphia, at that groundbreaking, our student government president said that young people are taught to hate their country. They're taught to hate their country. But then he went on to say, but not at Benedictine College, because we believe that the last best hope on earth should be celebrated, and that those values set forth by the founding fathers of self-government, individual liberty, civic virtue need to be passed on from one generation to the next. And so that's why part of this Independence Hall library that we're building will have a replica of the assembly room where they wrote the Declaration, they wrote the Constitution. So now in this region, we can bring young people onto our campus. We can tell them about the greatness of this country, so that idea of freedom and liberty can be passed from one generation to the next.
That's amazing. So you are building this Independence Hall style library as we speak?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's going up right now.
When's it expected to be done?
It'll be done in December of 2025. Yeah.
Okay. So you got a year and a half left for this thing.
We wanted it before July 4th, 2026, the 250th anniversary, of course, of our country.
That's great. That's great. So it is going to be literally basically a replica of Independence Hall, and it will be a library, but within it, we'll have kind of all these tributes to American history.
Correct. Right.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really great. And we just think it's needed in this region. Not everybody gets to go to Philadelphia, but now they can have that experience on our campus. And not only that, but it also allows us, because it's not in a government or secular area, it allows us also to tell the story about that we're a Christian nation, and that these Christian principles helped form the founders.
So what has this done? I guess you don't know what it's done to enrollment necessarily, or applications. You probably won't know that till this fall or next year. But enrollment in general has, doubled here for Benedictine the last couple of decades?
Well, in the last 15 years, our enrollment has doubled. We built 14 new residence halls, 6 academic buildings. We started new programs, which are pretty unusual for small liberal arts colleges, like engineering, architecture. And so these programs are really pretty amazing. We're in the early stages of starting a medical school on our campus too, and so this will be, and it's all geared to transforming the culture.
Now, as a Catholic institution, I feel like you're doing more to embrace American culture, American history, obviously Catholic values than, let's be honest, a lot of Catholic universities are right now. Is that fair? And I say that as someone who went to Villanova, but you're doing a lot more of that than my alma mater is.
Well, we believe that, like I said, are you willing to go bankrupt for your beliefs? And we believe that if you're going to say yourself, tell the people that you're a Catholic university, that you're going to mean it. And we believe in truth in advertising, and we're going to be supportive of the church and follow John Paul II's Excorde Ecclesiae, which is his writings on the church. On education in America.
What do you do now? How do you use this moment to try to encourage people who might have not heard of Benedictine or might not have thought of Benedictine as a place to further their education?
Right. Well, if you want your young son or daughter to be in a place that's going to love them and care for them and give them an amazing, rigorous education, but also steep them in the importance of community, that the whole is stronger than its individual parts. We need each other to be fully alive, okay? This idea that having a strong faith life is going to carry you on. I tell young people all the time, this is not a 4-year decision. It's a 40 or 50-year decision for you to pick your college, because you'll develop friends for life, you'll grow closer to Christ, and you'll be a lifelong learner. Those are 3 things: community, faith, and scholarship that they'll get at our place, and we'll challenge them. I mean, Pope Benedict XVI said, "Are you that the world promises you comfort, but you're not made for comfort. You're made for greatness." And so young people all the time are choosing to go to places where they're going to be comfortable. They're going to go to a major state university with their high school friends and hang out with their high school friends for the next 4 years because, hey, that's pretty comfortable. But if you want to go to a place that's going to ask you to aspire to greatness, well, then you need to go to a place like Benedictine College that's going to challenge you and ask you to be formed in community, faith, and scholarship so they can transform culture. How
much of what you guys do recruiting-wise, student-wise, is Kansas City area kids versus all over the country?
That's a great question. Most state universities and small liberal arts colleges will have 75% of their students from their home state, okay? Mm-hmm. We only have about 18% of our students are from Kansas because we have really worked hard to create a national reputation, and so we get we actually only have 49 states. Delaware is the one state we don't have. So if you know somebody from Delaware, you can send them our way. We'll give them a full ride.
I know a president in Delaware who could get a re-education in his Catholic faith. Do you know one of those? I can think of one.
Well, he's going to have to take he's going to have to take tests to see if he can get it accepted or not, right?
Oh, well, based on what I'm seeing, I'm not sure he's going to pass those tests, but I'll leave that up for further conversation. All right, President Steve Minnis of Benedictine College, fantastic work. In the last minute or so, what do you want to make sure people know and think about Benedictine College based on all this attention you've gotten over the last 2 months?
Well, if you're looking for a place that loves America, okay, loves the faith, understands the importance of building community and teaching young people how to be good friends and building relationships, getting off their phone. I mean, our students have phones, but at dinner time, you see them, they're conversing with each other, not sitting there around there looking at their phones, because building community is really important. Loving Jesus Christ, having a strong faith life, and finally, being a lifelong learner and constantly seeking the truth. Well, Benedictine College is the place to go.
Well, President Minnis, thank you for being here on KCMO. We appreciate you coming down, making the trip, joining our studios, and we'll have you on again soon if you're willing to come back.
Love to. Appreciate you.
All right. Steve Minnis, President of Benedictine College on KCMO.